pleasure to be here. Thank you. It's as big a gift to me as it is to all of you. I have loved CD and his teachings and his community for, wow, must be going on 40 years now, or it's been a long time. And, I hope you're all well. And I really also hope that you all know how much I enjoy having time with you all. It has been one of the big purposes of my life is to spread CD's teachings and his message to as many people as possible and help as many people understand CD and get to know him better. But first, let us join our hearts together by a sharing of the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Rahmanir rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. O Allah, we are gathered here together with the intention to give you thanks for guiding us to seek more and more proximity with you and for honoring us with the opportunity to know our beloved guide, Sidi, and to learn continually from him how to gain this proximity. And we ask from our hearts that you continue to bless us and to guide us. And we ask for your support and healing for all those who are suffering in this world. We are sending our loving thoughts to all those suffering in the Holy Land. And please, Allah, may your mercy and compassion bring solutions so that the fighting stops and that the people learn to live peacefully with each other. Guide us to know how we should reach out to other seekers and continue to support us with your love and blessings. Our purpose in life, taught to us by our guide, is to know you and to worship you. So please, Allah, continue to help us to open our hearts and help others to do the same. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Muhammad Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. So greetings again to all of you and welcome to this time that we're going to be spending together. When our beloved sister Susara Madana, and may Allah bless her, and all of those who work with her to gather these groups, called me, she mentioned that one of the subjects still available was a chapter from Sidi's teachings called Women Are the Sisters or Twin Halves of Men. As I think you all know, Allah works in many magical ways, and it just so happened that I was in the process of working on a teaching about the rise of women in the world of Islam for the university. And I'd reached out to Amina Al-Jamal to ask her if she could suggest, particular teachings that she thought would be applicable to this. And so she sent me this wonderful book. I don't know if you all know it. It's called The Degree of the Woman in the Religion of Islam. And you can get this at sufimaster.org. But it's a collection of teaching, of all the teachings Sidi did about women in Islam. So it was nice because it kind of condensed a lot of things into one helpful place. I'm going to be reading from this book today, but I'm also interested to know what kind of balance we have today between the men and women on the call. Can you give me a kind of a rough estimate of how many women, how many men?
Sure, yes, alhamdulillah. Let me just see if I can change my screen here.
I mean, this Itarika is predominantly female driven. I imagine it's pretty much the same in the call, but my hope is that today that both sexes are going to find value in what's in my heart to share with you, because as you'll hear from the reading, Cede felt both sexes are equal, and I certainly feel that. And I'd go so far as to say that in some cases, I've learned more about myself from women than men. And I've on numerous occasions felt that the more I can surrender to a woman, the more I can learn. And I, like most of you, I felt that the more I surrendered to Cede, the more I learned. But, Cede encompassed such a really deep understanding of the woman, and he carried that in his heart in so many ways. So he was, in a sense, kind of equally masculine and feminine. But, I always like to do a little bit of an introduction before I read, because I'm hoping that some of the things I share with you will help you to absorb more deeply what Cede writes about. Personally, I've always been someone who loved women. Growing up, I was extremely close with my mother, and I had a sister, Jill, who was married to a writer, Kurt Vonnegut, and she became an extremely successful photojournalist and photographer. And then I spent almost 25 years in Paris working as a fashion photographer. So I was with a really lot of amazing women a lot of the time. I've always thought of women as our twin halves, or at least equal to us. But earlier in the evolution of the world, it seems men had a feeling of superiority, and they didn't always treat women with the dignity and respect they deserved. Not in the business world, not in the world of art. And in many parts of the world, sadly, this is still going on. And there's a dominance because our culture doesn't know how to honor the feminine as a collective. For me, the feminine is the holy grail of wisdom. That receptive force of nature that they know how to go into stillness and listen and feel in a way that many men have more challenges because of their preoccupation with making headway in the dunya. But the woman feels her way along the path rather than using just logic and reason like a lot of the men do. And so this receptive kind of intuitive reality and quality for me is something that's supremely feminine by nature. The feminine receives information, insight, wisdom, guidance, qualities we all need. And I think this comes from her innate ability to open, and in opening, receive. Allah's wisdom, is behind it all. But some of the, I was thinking, what does it mean to be an enlightened woman? I think that an enlightened woman, one, lives with integrity, meaning that her thoughts, her actions, and her words, they all line up. This is a powerful way to inspire others, because for me speaking, I know as a man in the world, I haven't always learned to be as direct and open and transparent as probably I should have been. I always felt a need that I had to impress people in a certain way in order to get the work I needed or to make the headway. I wasn't as receptive, as aggressive in many instances. But I want to share with you some of the things that I've found interesting that's allowed the women to live more as equals to men today and not be so dominated. But before I read the notes that I got while using the search engine, I came across a couple of more lighthearted things that I wanted to share because as they appeared while I was researching the subject, I just thought that they had a place, and I think they'll amuse you. And they're in no way intended to take lightly CD's teaching, but I don't know if you all know this. CD was often amused by jokes, and I really think that these would have made him smile at least. But so the first one was, why did God supposedly make men before he made women? And the answer is because everyone needs a rough draft. That was pretty good. And then the second I enjoyed was Clementine, who was Sir Winston Churchill's wife, was talking. They were walking along a sidewalk and she stopped to talk to a street sweeper for a while. And then when she finished, he turned to her and he said, "Well, what were you talking to him for so long about?" And she smiled and she said, "Well, many years ago, he was madly in love with me." And so Churchill kind of smiled ironically and said, "So you could have been the wife of a sweet sweeper today?" "Oh, no, my love," Clementine replied. "If I had married him, he would have been the prime minister today." That was great. Anyway, on to the research. I have some things that I don't want to lose my place in the book here, that I researched on Google that I want to read to you. Like many amazing stories, the history of the women's rights movement began with a small group of people questioning why human lives were being unfairly constricted. The women's rights movement marks July 13, 1848 as its beginning. Women were educated in increasing numbers. They were more involved in politics. Motherhood was more respected. And many women continued to purchase goods rather than produce them, a trend that began before the revolution. But how did the women's movement change America? During the 1800s and the early 1900s, women and women's organizations not only worked to gain the right to vote, they also worked for broad-based economic and political equality and for social reforms. Between 1880 and 1910, the number of women employed in the United States increased from 2.6 million to 7.8 million. Let me read that again. The number of women, and this is a period of 1880, 30 years to 1910. In 30 years, the number of women employed in the United States went from 2.6 million to 7.8 million. Women are essential contributors to the economy. They play a significant role in the labor force, and they contribute to the growth and development of businesses. Women have also been proven to be successful entrepreneurs, and they're starting their own businesses today at a higher rate than men. The women's rights movement began as far back as 1848. As the women were educated in increasing numbers, they became more involved in politics. And as mothers, they were more respected. First, women sought to have the right to vote as well as to gain economic and political equality. Congress passed the law allowing women the right to vote in 1920. And this is a quote made in 1913 that I saw on the web that was included in an article that had a headline that said 11 quotes that changed the world. In 1913, the leader of the British suffragette movement, Emmeline Pankhurst, gave a speech in Hartford, Connecticut, known as the Freedom of Death speech. And this is the quote: "I come to ask you to help to win this fight." And she's addressing women. If we win it, this hardest of all fights, then to be sure in the future, it is going to be made easier for women all over the world to win their fight when the time comes. So today, fewer women stay at home, more women are in college. There are changes in the law and the enforcement of existing laws involving such issues as reproduction rights, sexual harassment, and domestic violence. There are changes in the workforce. In 1950, 34% of women worked outside the home. Today, that number has doubled, and there are over 60% of women working outside the home. And that doesn't account for the huge amount of women who work from home over the internet, or those that are writing books or coaching and mentoring others. And their ads you can see on TV now, like even during the football and baseball games, where you have women sharing how important it is that they earn their own money. And they want to learn more money management, because even today, it's said that women are 80% more likely than men to end their lives in poverty. Also, before I go into more talking and more reading, I wanted to share with you a couple of things from Ibn al-Arabi. He wrote, "A woman in relationship to a man is like nature in relation to the divine command. Since the woman is the locus for existence of the children, just as nature in relation to the divine command is the locus of manifestation for the entities of the corporal bodies." And he also wrote, "The greatest union is that between man and woman, corresponding as it does to the turning of God toward the one he has created in his own image, to make him his vice-regent, so that he might behold himself in him." So I think you can see from what I just shared with you, you can get a sense that over the years, the awareness for feminine power and the rise of women being more present in the world has grown considerably. And I believe it's going to continue to do so. We're starting to have, women that are heads of state. We're having women that are heads of the country. I don't think it'll be that long before, inshallah, one day we have a woman president in this country. Women have just started to make a bigger impact, not only in the world, but in the home as well. And as you all have often heard Sidi say, every letter in the Quran has multiple meanings. Sidi told me one day that he could have written an entire book just about the 2 dots that are used in the writing. In the early Arabic writing, they didn't even include dots. The dots were innovations that came after the spread of Arabic because of Islam. And as for these letters, each word is a different combination of the letters. For instance, the Adhan is a different combination of letters than the Fatiha. The reason that I mention this is because I was thinking how in Allah's creation, every individual, every man, every woman, every human being, in fact, everything in existence can be seen as an individual letter. And all of Allah's existence is, in one way or another, like the Quran. It's a combination of the individual letters, and when put together, just like the Quran, it's a testimony of the glory of Allah's creation. It's an epiphany to his majesty. And each one of you plays an individual part in this epiphany. How you relate to your mother is not the same as how you relate to your father. how you relate to your child, if you have one, is also different. And it's the sum total of these relationships and the relationships that you have with other people and with the other facets of the creation that make up a story, which is like a book about your life. And then, seen from this perspective, we can see how the male and the female relate and have related with each other since the dawn of creation. And this creates a story that can be told in many versions. And these stories can be found in all the different holy books. Each holy book has a version that shares a point of view about one's relationships to not only other humans, but to other parts of Allah's creation, such as animals and different parts of nature, even inanimate objects. You know, I've heard artists talk about how when the winds pass through a forest, they can hear songs, and that every forest has a different song depending on which group of trees is in that forest, that oak trees sing a different song than birch trees. Other artists can talk about how every single raindrop has a different sound. And the more that one studies the Quran, I think you all know this, is that the more secrets are going to be revealed. And it's the revelation of these secrets helps more mysteries to be revealed and sometimes even explained. I think we can love and enjoy a mystery without necessarily understanding the explanation of that mystery. You know, one of my hobbies all my life has been magic, and you know, when I perform magic for people, there's some people that just they can enjoy the mystery. They don't have to know how it's done. Others, their enjoyment can be sacrificed because they want to figure it out. They want to know how it's done. Lots of times I would buy a trick just to know how it's done and be very disappointed in the result because at that moment, in a certain sense, the magic is lost. So a total explanation of all the mysteries, I don't know, you know, unless you're somebody like CD who can absorb and put to use all that knowledge is absolutely essential. So I think one time when I was doing a talk recently, I played a song. It's called Let the Mystery Be. You can Google it on the internet. It's a really cool song. And it's true. Sometimes just letting the mystery be is good. I mean, I love there's a mystery in the woman that is sometimes even more magical than the knowledge of certain parts of understanding of her. And I think that it's probably the same for the woman as she looks at the man. And, you know, as I looked at CD, it was really frustrating for me in the beginning because I wanted to understand so much more about him. And the more I could let go of trying to understand and explain the way he processed and the way he learned, the more I could love him and just absorb and enjoy these teachings. I realized that,
I apologize for interrupting, Salih. We've lost you on the screen somehow. We can't see you anymore.
really, oh, let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. Is that back now?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for interrupting me. But I've forgotten where I was. So,
You were talking about the mystery, and the more that you could sit back and not have to intellectually understand about all the information, the more you could absorb the teachings that CD brought.
Thank you.
Tied to it, your love for him.
Thank you. I have a physical condition now that it's deeply affecting the blood flow to my brain. So I don't know where I was going to go from there, but I'll just start again. Anyway, a while ago, I was watching the women's tennis final at the U.S. Open, and after the match, Billie Jean King, who was and still is a big leader in the women's movement in tennis and in the world, she was introduced to award the championship trophy to the 19-year-old winner, who was an American black girl. And they mentioned how 30 years ago, Billie Jean King had started lobbying for equal pay with women. And, equal pay is just one way that you can measure equality. And so this again was a seed planted over 30 years ago. But then she handed Coco a check for $3 million. So here in our country, a 19-year-old woman, an African-American woman as well, in a short dress without hijab, was rewarded financially in the same way as the male winner of the tournament was. And to me, this is an amazing example which shows the evolution of the women in today's world. And I think the underdeveloped countries are going to come to realize this more and more as well. When I was working as a fashion photographer, for instance, I would very often be taking photos of women who made more income than I did. And I was paid pretty well for the quality of work that I did. But personally, I was glad for the opportunity to work with women who were strong and powerful and successful. I didn't feel threatened by them because I felt they enhanced my work. And I also trusted myself to be able to create images which allowed others to see how exceptional they were. CD teaches a lot about how women are the twins of men, especially in the inner world. And I feel that the development of women spiritually is now being reflected more and more by their success in the material world. Just as a man who is spiritually strong and well developed can find success in the world, so can women. And as CD taught us, hidden in multiplicity is unity. And I think for all of us, it's no secret that in unity, there is multiplicity. Allah is one. And within that divine oneness exist worlds well beyond our imagination. And just as the inner world can be reflected in the outside world, the opposite's also true. Women in Islam have worn a veil for a really long time. Many still do so today. The veil I'm referring to here is the one that we all call a hijab. We'll talk about other veils later, but the use of the veil can be considered in a variety of ways. It can be considered as a visible act of modesty. It's also, for many women, a sign of humility. It's a sign of reverence and surrender to the will of Allah. And it can cover the heart, not in a physical way, but in the way of the divine. And long ago, I found out that there were even some men who wore a veil. For instance, when Moses descended Mount Sinai with the tablets of the covenant, it said that the skin of his face shone because he'd been talking with God. This was in, I think it was Exodus 34. But naturally, the people were afraid in a way because of the radiance of his expression. So Moses would veil his face to keep the people from being blinded by this glory radiating from his countenance. Sidi didn't wear, at least to my knowledge, I never saw him wear a physical veil, but there were many parts of him that were veiled from most people, and that includes many people in Antarctica. Not everyone who met Sidi was aware of how close he was to Allah, and not everybody was able to really understand him. And he had his reasons to keep things that way. I spent, I don't know, 25, 30 years with Sidi, very close to him. I cannot claim to understand him. I told you when I really came to peace with this was when I really felt I learned more from him. I don't have the level of awareness to understand somebody of Sidi's station. I can feel something in my heart, and as I'm sure you all can, but I don't even to this day understand a lot of the actions that he took. I also am at peace with that. And I feel that I just don't want that any questions to interfere with my ability to maximize my ability to absorb his teachings. I don't think when Sidi looked at us, I wonder sometimes if he actually even saw male or female. I think that what he would see is a person's level of desire to know Allah. He would look to see what's that person's potential to surrender, that person's passion for the teachings, that person's desire to discover the truth, and their ability to surrender to the truth if they found it, even when inconvenient. You know, I happened to be walking through the living room one night recently where I'm living now to get some water from the kitchen, and my daughter and her husband had just started to watch a movie called The Mauritanian. I think it was The Mauritanian. Yeah, I think that was the name of it. And even though I'd been in the middle of doing something else in where I am, I sat down for a minute to see what that film was about. And I'm really glad I did, because it was an immensely powerful experience for me. It's a story of a Muslim who was detained in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years without ever actually being proven guilty of anything. And he was tortured in some really terrible ways. But his faith, his belief in Allah, his belief that truth would prevail and help him to endure until finally he was released. And while watching this movie, his faith felt so strong, it made me realize that my own faith could be much stronger than it is, that my own practices could be enhanced much more than they are. Allah is infinite, and there's no end to what we can know about Allah. And just as, love is infinite, I don't know if there's a limit to how much love we're able to give. The knowledge of the Quran is something, I think, without limits. No matter how much understanding we feel we may have today, there's still more we can learn. And this is very true about Sidi's teachings as well. Same goes I believe, for the male acceptance of the female and for the female's acceptance of herself. The woman is a divine expression, and the depth of beauty that they can contain, it's like an ocean, as Sidi would say, with no bottom. Even though I personally have reverence for the divine feminine, I think the male world in general can no longer deny this potential power. It's one of the truths of Allah that women are indeed our twin sisters. So if we want to continue to evolve as men, I feel we have no choice but to learn to accept women as our equals. And at the same time, the woman must continue to not only be aware of her unlimited divine potential, she must learn to trust it more and bring it out to the world more. As Sidi would say, don't just read about what I'm teaching, practice what I'm teaching in your daily life. He would want all of you to not be shy about expressing, and this goes for men and women, expressing the truths that you learn in your heart because of gaining more and more proximity with Allah. So when we learn to surrender to Allah's direction, we can start to experience a clarity and an insight into our decision-making processes. And I think this is because we can begin to feel liberated from trying to figure things out from our ego. And my experience as I've gotten older is that once you learn to do this, you'll see that bit by bit, you learn more to trust in Allah's wisdom. And the more you do this, the more proximity you're going to feel. And the more proximity you feel, the more trust you will be able to have. You know, when most people, I have a granddaughter who just got her license in the mail the other day. And when most people start driving a car, they're nervous. But the longer they drive successfully with no problems, and the more they gain confidence in their ability. The longer you stay on this path, the more you're going to realize how important and how much this path is for you. And the longer men go accepting women as their twin sisters, I believe the more they're going to realize that there's benefits, and there's even more benefits from having them and treating them as equals than they get from trying to dominate them. I think in the cultures, it's been my experience as I've traveled that there are men that are brought up in a culture where they absorb and practice the actions of what they see other men doing in their culture. And it's kind of the collective force of it that prohibits them from, that they don't know how to step out from a group, and they don't have enough faith in their own self to, I guess, to acknowledge to other men that they're uncomfortable trying to dominate the women in their life. I think for those of you who are parents, we can give our child all our love, but we can't give them our thoughts. They take them or they don't. But it doesn't mean we don't love them. And often what's reflected in the outside world is a reflection of what goes on in the inside worlds. And I think that the more men are opening to not just recognizing the softness and the surrender of the woman that's actually beautiful, it's also potentially more powerful than physical domination. Far too many men feel this domination gives them permission to have authority over a woman. And I've witnessed many men brought to their knees by a woman, including myself. And, when you think about the traditional image of the man who goes down on one knee when he proposes, I wonder what you think might be the Creator's intention by inspiring men to do this. One thing I think that is really important to all of us as the world moves forward is that women don't make the same mistake that men made. And by this, I mean, there were far too many men who used their physical strength in a way that they felt gave them permission to have a kind of lordship, maybe one would say, over women. And as women gain more and more positions of power in the world and realize more and more their ability to control a man by the subtle means within her, that she uses this power to help create a understanding in the man's heart of the equality of men and women and the value that this can bring to all of us. If the Palestinians and the Israelis that are arguing so vehemently in Gaza now could just stop and pause and realize the value that each of these cultures could bring to the other, there would be more benefits from joining in the expression of these values and manifesting and focusing on those things rather than on the differences. We don't need to be right or wrong. We just need to be in the truth. And as lordship, all of lordship belongs to Allah. And we need to simply keep developing our understanding of the beauty of the divine laws that our guide came to teach us so that we can apply these teachings in our relationships. Not just read about them and talk about them, but apply them in our relationships. So now I'm going to read to you what my beloved sister Susara Madonna suggested, and it's from this book, The Degree of the Woman in the Religion of Islam. And this is page 46. How are we doing on time, by the way? 4:50.
We're doing pretty good. We're about halfway through, a little bit more than a few minutes more than halfway through.
Good,
So
okay.
we've got about 40, we've got probably about 50 minutes at this point. No, 40 minutes, sorry, 40 minutes at this point.
Well, it's not a very long chapter. I might then, well, I'll ask you later, but I hope I haven't talked too much, but I hope that what I've shared with you, you find to be useful information. And I hope it's going to give you insights into what you're going to read here from Sidi. So this is, women are the shaqa'iq, the sisters or twin halves of men. The Prophet's behavior or attitude towards his wife was characterized by lofty ethics because the wife is a queen. The wife is a queen in her house. She is glorious in her house. She has the position of a queen, and a man must be a servant to her. He must treat her with politeness and gentleness and complete love. Look at how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke to his companions when they came back from a trip. He advised them, do not go to your wife for intimate relations as a beast. This is hadith as well. You must be decent and polite and gentle. Do not yell at her like a donkey in a loud voice. This is not permissible. You must talk to her with politeness because she's a human being. She has her own humanity. The Prophet said, women are twin halves of men. It's also a hadith. So she is equal to you. You are not better than her in any way. You are not higher or greater than her in any way. Allah says in the Quran, and so their Lord responded to their supplication, saying, I will not permit the work of any worker from you to be lost, male or female. Each of you is the issue of the other. Quran 3:195. This is true whether you are male or female. God will treat you equally. Well, if there's a better example of how one should treat people than God, let me know about it. But if he says and does treat us equally, I suggest we do the same. So how did the Prophet behave with his wife and daughters? When he wanted to visit either one of daughters or his wife, he would send someone to receive permission for him, to let them know that he was coming. He would ask, may I visit? May I come? And he only came if they gave permission. Otherwise, he would not go. Also, when he went to his own house, he would first knock on the door. He would say, are you ready for me to visit? This is the truth. And this is the real way it should be, because although it is a house, she is the queen of that house. And she is the one who is managing the affairs of that house. She cares about the house. And many makes the house dirty and then leave. He must never do that. This is not Islam. If a man comes to his wife and he has received permission, he knocks on the door and waits to see if she permits him to enter. Oh, beloveds, I just need to take a break for a second. I'm getting a little dizzy. Why don't you, if you have any comments you want to share or talk amongst yourselves? I'm just sorry, my health is what it is. I thank Allah for it, but Allahu Akbar.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. While we take this moment together to reflect and maybe reset a bit, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for this presentation by you, our beloved speaker tonight. And to hear the words coming from a man that so authentically values the presence and essence of a woman speaks louder than the words, because the transmission comes from the heart. So thank you so much for valuing the woman and the man in you. And perhaps I can learn to value the man and the woman in me, so that there is that unity that's seeding so often prescribed for our healing.
Thank you, beloved. Thank you. Thank you for the pause, too. Well, whether it was his daughter or his wife, the first thing the prophet used to say was, "Peace be upon you, beloved, precious one." He then went inside his house, greeting them by kissing their foreheads. He would ask them to supplicate Allah on his behalf, and then he would ask, "How are you doing? How was your day? What happened?" He would feel happy when they were happy, sad when they were sad. And later, when he visited his wives, he would say, "Peace be upon you. O most precious ones, beautiful ones, beloveds, these are the loftiest ethics of Islam, and this is the message for those who believe." This is the behavior of the Muslim husband with his wife, because the wife is a queen, and the husband must serve her. He must work and fulfill her needs, and she must rest at home. According to Islam, she can go to work, but she does not have to. He must support the house. He has to pay for what she needs. But that does not mean that he prevents her from working. Her husband says, "It is your choice whether you want to go out to work or not, but I will continue to support you." He does not say, "All right, give me half of what you earn," or "you must pay for this much of the house." These are not Islamic ethics, and this is not the divine structure for the family. It is shaitanic. It's from Iblis. In this case, the woman works as the man. But like a machine, day and night they both work, and she works and puts her money into the house. Is this from the religion? Is this respecting women? Is this how women take their rights in your society? Where is your right? Your right is to work hard and then come home to work more at the house. Is she not a human being that needs support and respect? Allah and his holy Quran give her complete rights and give her a right estimation and value and honor her. I worked as a judge for 36 years. I used to have a stick beside me. When a man violated the rights of his wife, I would not wait for the police to come. I would beat him myself. This is true. He threatened people when he was not happy with them. I would say, "What are you doing? She's a human being. Why do you treat her like that? You're like a criminal, a monster. Why do you treat her that way?" You know, as I read this, it just comes to my heart to say, Sidi was a believer in unity, but he spoke out against injustice. I know there's been a lot of things going on in the Tarika and in the forums, and we should all love each other and all pray for each other. Sidi would not, I don't believe, be standing so idly by and just saying, "Let us pray for people." He was a man who took action against injustice. He spoke out against it. And he was not somebody who believed in oppression. I don't want to get into a deep discussion about that, but silence is not always a very strong weapon. And I think each of us has to individually decide how willing we are to pay the consequences to be outspoken. Sidi spent many nights. Did my camera just go off again?
It did, yes.
I thought I heard it click. The battery must be coming down. There we go. What was it? Oh, yeah. Sidi I just never knew him to back down from speaking the truth when he felt it was important. And the consequences for him of not speaking the truth were more severe because he was more concerned with what Allah's thoughts about how he was were than what his fellow man's thoughts about him were. Sorry for the diversion, but it just came to my heart. So let's see. I worked as a judge for 36 years. Oh, I read that already? Oh, I'll read it again. And I used to have a stick beside me. When a man violated the
Yes,
rights
you read that, Sarah. You read that.
Okay. Well, I don't know where I was, so I'll just keep on. When a man violated the rights of his wife, I would not wait for the police to come. I would beat him myself. And I would say, "What are you doing? She's a human being. Why do you treat her like that? You are like a criminal, a monster. Why do you treat her that way?" He cannot speak. And I say, "I'll put you in jail for 15 days. This was a right which the law gave me. And when I called the police, they would give him more. So as a judge, I would put him in jail for 15 days. And sometimes the wife would come and she would be so kind. She'd say, "Sidi, please don't put him in jail because of my children." And I'd say, "But he did what he did. And he was not polite to you, was he? He was impolite. He must take his share." And she would say, "But Sidi, you've already beat him. That's enough." And I would say, "No, it is not enough. He must learn his lesson really well." This is Allah's rule. This is the judgment of Allah. We must not allow him to abuse her or to beat her or harm her. She's not an animal, and you don't even treat an animal like that. The woman is something very holy in our religion, in our way. She's a very holy creature from her feet up to her head. She's holy, and she has complete rights. In our religion, we don't allow a woman to be used as something or to be sold and bought. We do not allow her to be on the streets on her own so that monsters may take advantage of her. True freedom is to preserve the humanity of this beautiful creature, the woman.
You go to an Islamic country.
True freedom is to preserve the humanity of this beautiful creature, the woman. The woman needs support. When she is 13 years old, she needs more than when she was 3 years old. She always needs support. Why? Because she is growing beautiful, and monsters on the street would like to take advantage of her and to use her for their own pleasure. In the time of our grandparents, it was different. Look at your own families. Long ago, at the time of your grandparents, the family structure was different. The freedom of today is barbaric freedom. It is not true freedom. It's a false freedom. We want to return to our roots, to the law of the divine, to the heavenly teachings that command us to preserve women and to respect her humanity. And in that way, she keeps herself pure until she finds a husband that can support her, respect her, and provide for her. This is the message of Islam. This is the way of Islam. And this is the message of Muhammad, but also the message of Moses and Jesus, alayhi wasalam. And it's the message of all the prophets. It's the Jewish message. In Judaism, the woman is considered a jewel. And also in the teachings of Jesus, the woman is a jewel. But Western ideology has been corrupted, and it's ruled by those who want to take advantage of people, use them and benefit from them. They give people sweet words and poison. Astaghfirullah. And they try to benefit from them and take advantage of them by selling them the idea of false freedom. But in our way, the woman is precious. The wife is precious. The love must be mutual between a husband and a wife. The love must be mutual between a husband and a wife. I'm speaking metaphorically. In reality, the woman in herself is a mirror, because in Arabic, the word imra'a means woman. This word in Arabic shares the same root with mirha, the word for mirror. And this is a clear sign that she is a divine mirror. The man is also a divine mirror in which the woman can see herself. And this divine mirror must never be broken. Is it permissible for you to break a divine mirror? No, it is not permissible. That means that both of you must have mutual understanding, share love, and stop fighting and competing, because the message of Allah is founded upon love. It is founded upon love and peace and justice and mercy. And if you do not have mercy for your beloved, who will have mercy for her? And if the woman does not have mercy for the one she loves, her beloved husband, who else can give him that? This is our religion.
Salah, that was a beautiful reading.
It's not done.
Okay, but do you want to maybe finish the paragraph and tonight?
I have it in my heart.
Okay, all right.
Fortunately, I have an appointment Monday at Stanford to deal with this situation. But everything is from Allah. Everything. These pauses are for a reason. Maybe only Allah knows them, but maybe we can just enjoy the mystery of it. This is our religion and our way and what we recommend to people. We, the people of the straight path, care very much about the relationship of man and woman, and we put it in the right perspective, in the right way, so that they may be happy and their children may be happy as well. Their children are raised in a noble household with generous parents, full of peace and love, and the children grow up full of love. Is this not so? This is the message of Allah, and we must take care to actualize this message and apply it. You know, those of you who have had the blessing to know Sidi's children know exactly what he's saying here. They each carry so much love. They each carry so much of his message. It's exactly what he says here. And when I first met Sidi, his wife at the time, Hureya, she lived with, what do you call those canisters, with the air that, she had a thing that she wheeled that had a tube that gave her air to breathe.
You're talking about an oxygen tank?
Yes, thank you. I mean, the love and the care, the respect and the attention that he devoted to this woman after coming home from, just dealing with thousands of people. It was a remarkable example of tenderness. He brought her sister, who some of you might know, to live in the house, to help care for her. But the first thing that he ever did when he came in the house was exactly what he said the Prophet did, is he would go into his room and he would sit in her bed and he'd caress her forehead, ask her how she was. And even if there was something pressing and people waiting, sometimes there would be a half a dozen people waiting in the zawiya to ask him questions. He'd keep them waiting all night if she needed him. This is a message of Allah, and we must take care to actualize this message and apply it. Any young woman must keep herself pure and protect herself and not allow her body to be hurt by the monsters of the street who want to take advantage of her and throw her away. She must be patient until she finds someone who truly loves her and will provide for her. And she should not give herself to someone for a couple of months because then he leaves her and goes to another. Our way is a noble life. She must live this noble life and feel true love and be the beloved. This is our way. I have one daughter and 5 sons, but I love my daughter more than I love all my sons. If she asks for my eyes, I will give her my eyes. If she wants my hand, I will give her my hand. I love her deeply, and I've never spoken a harsh word to her that will hurt her, not only with her, but also with her mother before she passed away. I never spoke a harsh word to her. I never heard Sidi speak a harsh word to either of them. She was sick for 30 years, and I never asked her, why did you do this? Why did you not do that? I was never harsh with her. We must keep hearts whole, because the one who breaks a heart, Allah will break his heart. Because the one who breaks a heart, Allah will break his heart. Allah says, I am with those whose hearts are broken for my sake. This is a Hadith Qudsi. There is no veil between the broken heart of a woman and Allah. If she says, oh Allah, please help me, he will immediately destroy the one who broke her heart, because Allah answers the pain of the oppressed. We must then be conscious of Allah while we are dealing with our children and while we are dealing with ourselves and our husbands and our wives. We must treat our children in a godly way. We must care for their feelings and treat them so that they can preserve the divine essence in themselves as Allah wants it to be preserved. Does any one of you not have a mother? I'm sure every one of you had a mother and may have a sister or a wife or an aunt. But we're speaking about the divine family, the godly family, which we want to preserve and care about. We want you to know about the type of family that is full of love and justice and equality. This is the original principle and foundation of our creed, our belief. Our message is of peace and love and justice and mercy and freedom, and we must actualize and prove ourselves true. We must never listen to arrogance, fighting over the lower self, and we must be as Allah wants us to be. This is the message that I want to send to every heart. So that is the end of the chapter on the sisters or the twin halves of men. Now, there's other chapters here. There's a woman is equal to a man. I mean, there's so many of these writings, but my thought, beloveds, is that you don't need me to read these to you. You can get and read these on your own. And I think you all know I'm a phone call away or an email away. If you ever have a question or want some input on any of the teachings, you can feel free to ask me. How much time do we have left now? 15 minutes? So I would like to just share a bit more if I can, and when I'm finished sharing what's in my heart to share, if there's time for more reading, I'll do more reading. Is everybody okay with that, or would you prefer I go on reading?
Sounds lovely.
Okay. Well, one thing that I feel that the greatest power of a woman is absolutely to be a woman, because you have the power to create life. And everyone knows this is an established fact. A woman carries a small living being inside of her. What's ever so often underestimated or unknown are all the superpowers that are acquired or can be acquired by a woman after this milestone is reached. When you wonder about the role of a woman in our society today, as we said earlier, women are the backbone of families and communities. They provide care. Look at our community. The women are the backbone of this community. Yes, there are men that play a major role, but without all the women, we wouldn't even be a community, basically. You have to realize that individually, you each carry something special, and collectively, it's a huge gift. Sidi's dream, his vision, was to spread Sufism across millions of homes in America. And I think that behind everything Sidi did, he had an objective. And if having a predominantly feminine culture wasn't something he felt that would serve the ultimate goal that he had, I think he would have changed his message and built a different kind of an organization. If Sidi had as much love and respect for you as that, you should each carry that for yourself and each other. And the men of our Tarika should pay closer attention to the inner strength and the beauty of the subtleties of what the woman carries. Men are more outspoken about their abilities and gifts. Women are more secretive. They hide their mystery in a deeper place, I think. And when they reveal this, it's like a treasure or a truth that you seek all your life for has tremendous value. It's much more than $1 you find in the street and pick up simply. I also believe Sidi was like this. He held within him many secrets that we had to draw out of him. We had to earn the right to understand and appreciate these secrets when he chose to reveal them. And he just didn't put everything out there all at once. It was like he gave the meal piece by piece, the appetizer, the main meal, the dessert. And, he left us all these books, this is like how would you say, the cream on the cake. This is he always said that his greatest gift that he was leaving was the knowledge that's in his books, if you learn to assimilate it and use it and practice it. So, what are some feminine power virtues that I admire? One of the things that I admire really a lot is their ability to be truly present. I know how many times in my life I've sat and been in situations where when I'm with somebody, I'm not truly present. There's a big part of me or a piece of me that's somewhere else. With CD, I couldn't afford that. I had to be 100% totally present with him. Because if my mind even drifted for a second, I mean, sometimes we'd be sitting in silence for 20 minutes and then I might start thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I better go check on the reservation, make sure that, I've got the booking for the plane reserved in the way. And, all of a sudden CD would inject, Salih, do you think you should go and check on the reservation? He could follow my thinking wherever I went. So I had to be very careful to keep it focused on, what I wanted him to see. I'm sure he could see everything else as well, but anyway, so women, I just think, have a gift to be truly present. They have a gift to be truly authentic. Their sensuality, their ability. It's not just their sensuality, because men also can be sensual, but it's their sensuality. It's their ability to combine their sensuality with spirituality and with gratitude, and to have it so full of love and not be from what CD would call the animal part of our being. Women, I think, are also powerful healers, which is why he focused so much on teaching healing over here. CD taught us that to heal is to encounter love itself. A powerful woman possesses the emotional strength and she has the courage to be herself, no matter what the situation. I know that I've been guilty of not always having the courage to be completely authentically myself in certain situations. I think I'm getting better at it, but I am far from perfect at it. I think women shouldn't expect to be fulfilled by following in the footsteps of men, as many women have been taught to do. And I don't think that women should think they need to use the same tools as men do, because I think some of their tools are even more powerful than the tools that some men use. An electrician uses a different tool than a bricklayer, for instance. So what makes an empowered woman? I should probably be asking you all this, not telling you what I think it is, but hopefully we'll have some time at the end where you can share what you think it is. But for me, a woman's empowerment has a number of components. A woman's sense of self-worth. I've felt that this is something that women are getting much stronger and have much more faith in than they used to. I think that women's right and their belief in their right to have and to determine choices is also important for their empowerment. I think their belief, it's not just their right, but it's their belief in their right to have access to opportunities and resources. It's their right to have power and control over their own life. Women don't need a man to feel complete. They need a lot to feel complete, both within and outside the home. And they have a tremendous ability to influence the direction of the social movements towards a higher and more enlightened goal and good than just sharing and selling things over the internet. Anyway, I really want to thank you all for your attention and presence today. In my deep heart, in my deepest heart, I really hope that you find value in what I've shared, because I know we have many choices as to where and how we can focus our time and our energy today. And the quality of our choices is what's going to determine the quality of our lives. Our beloved guide was constantly focusing his attention towards matters that he felt were important. And one of the things that mattered a lot to him was the teaching of about an importance of teaching about equality, and not just talking about what he taught. So, beloveds, I know that most of you here today, as I said, are probably women. Continue to grow and continue to be more and more patient with the men around you so that they can learn and experience all the magic of your femininity. And may Allah bless you all, the men as well as the women. And again, it means so much to me to be able to share what's in my heart for all of you. It really keeps me going. It really, I can't describe it in words. I can only hope that you can feel what's in my heart for all of you, and why 40 or 50 years of my life have been dedicated to exposing people to the truths that our guide brought us. You should all really, really give thanks that you have been gifted by Allah the opportunity to have been exposed to this, because you're a minute percentage of the world. And if you think, like for me, I have many things right now in my life that would be easy for me to complain about. But every time I complain about something, I give myself the exercise to give 2 thoughts of gratitude and thanks to Allah for the things I'm grateful for, because I have so much more to be grateful for than I have to complain about. My brother-in-law, who was married to my sister for 53 years, passed away last week, and I realized he was the same age as I was. Allah, in his grace, is allowing me to keep going on, and I want each moment that I go on to be able to add some value to this world and to all of your lives, so that you can in turn multiply that. And one last thing I would like to again encourage you all to do is to support more and more the communities that are building, support more and more the university, because the university brings more new people to Antarctica than anywhere. You don't have to be in agreement with all of it. Look for the parts you are in agreement with. Look for the people that teach there what you love, and don't worry about those that don't. The truth is going to rise to the top. It's going to be what goes deepest. It's the strongest weapon there is. And in the end, I believe that Allah's wisdom is going to be what comes out that will help people the most. But we need, as a group, to gather together and support the legacy of the gifts that CD gave us. He spent 6 months a year here, 6 months away from a place that was really sacred to him. Did my camera just go out again?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I hope this is not indicating that I'll be speaking to you from the darkness soon, inshallah. But if that's what Allah has ready for me, I am ready for what Allah gifts me with. I often said, I think Sidi chose me to be close to him because out of all of you, I was most in need of these teachings. And I still feel that. I have such a need for these teachings. But I don't know if we're out of time or if you want me to answer questions, but I'm prepared for whatever you all want. But again, I do want you to know how grateful I am. And I've asked, I hope that some of the funds that are, being held, on the land will go to support communities like this one that promotes Sidi's teachings and go, Sidi was not somebody that let money sit idly in his hand. If you put $1 in Sidi's hand and it stayed there longer than an hour, I'd be surprised. I want to encourage all of you to make use of the gifts that Allah gives us. Don't let them sit idle anywhere. I think this is what Sidi would want from us. And I think those of you that take the time to follow and, out of your days to listen to the different teachers, I think you all know this in your deep heart. And if this is a truth that moves you, trust it. And just like I say, for all the women, trust in the beauty of the gift of your femininity. Trust in the beauty of the truths that your guide gave you in these teachings. So with that, I will be quiet for a minute and be available to answer any questions or hear any comments or have anybody else that wants to share something else they find of value.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Salih, for a very beautiful, nourishing, lovely gathering tonight, for giving from your heart. Alhamdulillah, we're all very grateful to you and for everything that you've shared with us. We are at time, so inshallah, is there a quick question? We don't want to go too far over time, but is there someone have a really important quick question they want to ask? It's been so good to be together. I want to make one announcement that the Florida community will be offering 4 full days immersion in Sufi teachings coming up in just 3 weeks, November 17th through November 20th. 4 full days, all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We have our beloved sister Amani Shalabi teaching, Dr. Abdul Haq Godless, and also Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe. It's going to be a really beautiful weekend, inshallah. So I'll put the link in the chat if anyone would like to register for that. We'd love to see you in person and spend time together. It's also available on Zoom, so if you'd prefer to connect on Zoom, there's that option too. Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a beautiful night.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Thank you.
Beloved Salih, good luck in Sanford. We will keep you in our prayers as usual.
Thank you. They're putting a camera, I think, in down my throat to see what they can do about the valves that are leaking, because 40% of my blood's going not to my head. So, but what I asked the doctor, I said, am I having Alzheimer's or is it the flow of the blood? And he says, well, we won't know till we get the valve fixed. So, but whatever is Allah's plan for me, I've been happy with where he's taken me. I've been happy to have known you all. I've been happy for the opportunity to serve him. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sidi if this is in Allah's wishes as well. So, thank you for your prayers. I appreciate it.
We hear
Thank you so much, Stella. You are wonderful. You are just wonderful. Thank you for reminding us all the time.
You're all wonderful too. You are.
Well, it takes one to know others.